access to the U.S. for 6 months afterwards. Almost overnight, $750 million worth of food and medical supplies to Cuba were halted. A few years later, the embargo was intensified, and foreign businesses working in Cuba were barred from entering the U.S. Cuba's access to foreign capital was crippled.
In the case of Cuba, you try to suffocate a country. You deprive the country of access to financial sources, so Cuba cannot have access to the World Bank or to the IMF for good.
An American dollar reached 150 pesos, and the average salary is like 2 pesos. No? There were people that were making $2 a month. So money was not useful to get stuff. So we end up being like an experiment, no? Like with controlled conditions. Like nothing or very little things can get from the outside, so everything has to happen from the inside.
During the first 5 years of the special period, government food rations kept the crisis at bay. These food distributions guaranteed a minimum level of food to each of Cuba's citizens.
And it was invented when we lost diplomatic relations with the U.S., no more economic relations with the U.S., and in order to prevent hoarding. Okay, so the more people had more money, would just swipe, do away with everything on the counters, and others would go hungry. They invented this ration food distribution system.
With food imports reduced by 80%, the government-supplied food distributions had to be cut drastically.
You have the official state market through subsidies, ration card, which has been shrink to perhaps 1/5 of consumption, from almost 100%.
Now, let's go to this board because I want to show you so you can understand. This is on a monthly basis.
Anyone of the Cuban population has granted, through this system, 3 of 4 weeks of basic consumption according to United Nations minimum level of calories ingestion in a month. To complete the 4 weeks basic level, it could come in the form of subsidized food on your workplace, lower prices, so you pay meals at subsidized prices. So that allows you to pay only weekends or nights meals.
So there might be a week, okay, that you might have to buy extra, purchase extra. It depends also on your consuming habits.
Every aspect of Cuban life was affected by the special period, but no change was as far-reaching as agriculture. Cuba had committed to the Green Revolution, a system which requires the massive use of fossil fuels in the form of natural gas-based fertilizers, oil-based pesticides, and diesel fuel for tractors and other farm machinery. The country's agriculture was more industrialized than any other Latin American country, and exceeded the U.S. in its use of fertilizer.
The Cuban agricultural conventional Green Revolution system never was able to feed the people. It had high yields, but it was a lot oriented to the plantation agriculture, open economy. We export citrus, tobacco, sugarcane, and we import the basic things, 55% of the rice, more than 50% of the vegetable oil, of the oil and the lard that we consume. So the system, even in the good times, how people here remember, never fulfill the basic needs.
Cuba's agriculture began to falter as one problem after another halted production. Fuel and parts for tractors were almost impossible to find. Seeds, tools, animal feed, and vaccines were scarce.
Esto trajo como consecuencia que el de estar aquí era prácticamente una agricultura de supervivencia. Y los insumos que había de químicos ya no existían. Por ello que se dejó de la harina de trigo, los fertilizantes, los granos, el aceite. Fue un golpe muy fuerte. Y muchas personas pensaban que el proceso podía colapsar en 3 meses o 6 meses. Y realmente fue una etapa muy difícil para readaptar la economía a las nuevas condiciones.
The lack of fuel drove us to have a very big shortage of food.
So people, they end up squatting places in the city and growing food there without knowing how, because there were engineers, there were doctors, there was not farmers.
a drastic effort to convert every piece of arable land to organic agriculture was begun. During this special period, Cuba was able to help prevent famine through an urban agricultural movement.
Every vacant lot in the city was turned into orchard.
At first, urban gardening was an ad hoc local survival response to the crisis.
They needed food, they didn't know how, and they just did it, trial and error. And there wasn't space, they have a problem with garbage, dumping, rats, so they fixed all of those problems, get rid of the garbage and start growing things there.
Another thing during the special period was this identification of idle plots of land, right, that were cleaned up by the community and turned into agricultural gardens, urban agricultural gardens.
Hearing of the crisis, Australian permaculture experts came to Cuba to assist in developing new ways to garden and raise food.
So in October of 1993, the first two Australians came. And so we started to design the rooftop garden in that place. And after that, we got this small project. For us, it was a lot of money, 26,000 American dollars. And we started to do a train-the-trainer course.
They're one of the largest capacity centers for permaculture in Havana, and they themselves have trained over 400 people. Not only have, through these workshops and courses, has the community learned about permaculture, but they here in the center have learned a lot about the community. For example, if someone comes here and they have a health problem, they do whatever they can to help with that, but also they serve as kind of a reference point. They will go and look for the specialist and bring them here, so it's a mutual relationship.
The people cooperating with and caring about each other are the main factors that we need to encourage. We can all plant fruit trees, we can all have water catchment devices on our roofs. It's not the technology, it's the human relationships.
The neighbors are starting to see the possibilities of what they can do in their spaces, and they're starting to create natural gardens on their roofs and also in their patios.
Cubans, who formerly lived on the equivalent of just $2 a month, found new ways to supplement their income.
These grapevines have a lot of uses. It provides shade, so you have a little patio area. You also can make wine out of the grapes, and it's very good for the family economy, because if you do it well, you can get about 10 pesos for a bottle of wine.
Cubans' view of agriculture has changed dramatically. Farmers are now among the highest paid workers, and people from all fields are attracted to the profession.
I'm a musician, I'm a mechanics, automobile mechanics,
diseñador de equipos electrónicos,
designer of the electronics, and nothing of this I am doing.
Esto solo.
Only this.
Only animals.
Just animals and these plants.
So he's an urban farmer on top of his house.
The farmers in Cuba are not the poorest people in the society. On the contrary, they have food, so they don't have to spend their money on food, and they sell food, so they make good living. No? So it is important to take that in account. That is another way to dignify the people that grow food.
With a very low cost, we were producing food, and now we have more than 1,000 kiosks allocated in the city that provide you with fresh fruits and vegetables produced in the neighborhood.
More than 50% of the total vegetable needs of the Havana's population, 2.2 million inhabitants, is supplied by the urban agriculture.
In small cities and towns, urban gardens are even more productive, providing 80 to 100% of the fruits and vegetables they need. Urban agriculture supplies food locally, eliminating much of the need for transporting food over long distances.
The country has 169 municipalities. So 5 kilometers around the municipal towns also are considered urban agriculture. So it's a national system that is employing more than 140,000 people, actually. It's creating jobs. It's a growing sector of the economy, and it is very important. And we're very proud to say that.
Cuba eliminated the need for natural gas-based fertilizers and oil-based pesticides by developing organic farming methods. Fortunately, research centers had begun studying sustainable agriculture before the crisis. Because of this preparation, the transition to an approach to farming that didn't depend on fossil fuels was implemented nationally within just a few years. Without fossil fuels, more manual labor was needed, making smaller farms necessary and increasing the number of farmers.
One of the challenges, the peak oil challenges, is to reclaim land from the large-scale conventional agriculture.
Un suelo en formarse trata millones de años y en destruirse muy poco tiempo. Bueno, uno de los problemas que trae la tierra con químicos es la mineralización y la desaparición de la microflora y la microfauna.
Desaparición.
La desaparición de la microflora, de la vida del suelo.
The soil is a living being. And in the topsoil, in the first 3 inches of soil, is the key. You add chemicals, you damage all of that. So then the soils became almost like sand.
So we're going to be having interesting challenges and to rehabilitate the soil.
Cuba found that it took from 3 to 5 years to make the land fertile and productive again.
Organic needs a transition, no? Needs some time and needs some money to establish the system, because when you get the soil is so damaged and dead that you need to rebuild the soil. You need to bring back the soil to life, and that takes time and a little bit of money as well. You have to follow the natural cycles. So you hire nature to work for you, not work against nature. To work against nature, you have to waste huge amounts of energy. Conventional people use this heavy machinery that compacts the soil, huge tractor, huge combine trucks and things like that. So you have to open the soil again, add more nutrients. The first ethic, to take care of the land, of the earth. This is very important. If we don't take care of the earth will take care of us and get rid of us.
Entonces los institutos de investigación empezaron rápidamente a acomodar la agricultura a una agricultura orgánica, tanto desde el punto de vista de pesticidas como de nutrición.
For me, it's more important how the things that I'm eating are growing or are produced than what I'm eating. So if a vegan eats these heavily pesticide polluted vegetables, he's not doing much.
El hecho de empezar a utilizar materia orgánica empiezan a aparecer microorganismos